Caller whose number ends in 7028.
Mr. Servon.
How you doing, Mr. Servon?
Good evening.
It's now 6:30. I'd like to call to order the Regional Planning Commission business meeting for Thursday, March the 11th. And as I said, it's now 6:30. As always, we're going to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'll have Denise lead us, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Karcher. Now we'll do a roll call and determination of quorum. Sarah, please.
Mr. Peterman? Mr. Servon?
Here.
Mrs. Karcher?
Here.
Mr. Mills?
Here.
Mr. Spinarelli?
Here.
Mr. Davis? Absent. Mr. Jester.
He was online earlier.
Mr. Davis?
Mr. Davis, you may want to unmute your phone at this time.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Jester?
Did you get me? Hi.
Mr. Jester?
Yes,
We have
here.
7 present. We do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. And as I always say when we start a meeting, if you have a telephone or electronic device, please turn it off or put it on vibrate so it won't disturb our meeting. Also, I'd like to thank tonight, I've been asking for a few months, we have little bottles of water in front of us. I thank Mr. Mark Kennedy for supplying them. Hopefully it were to get passed down the line. And I think it's a great idea, and thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Now we'll go with the agenda. Is there any additions, deletions to the agenda? If not, I'd entertain a motion and a second.
So moved.
Call the commission.
Mr. Peterman?
Yes.
Mr. Servon?
Yes.
Mrs. Karcher?
Yes.
Mr. Mills?
Yes.
Mr. Spinarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
So you have 7 yeas in favor of approving tonight's agenda.
Thank you once again. You've all received copies of the minutes from the June 14th, 2021 meeting. I assume you've had time to look them over. And if there's no corrections, or additions, or deletions, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Sarah, call the commission.
Mr. Peterman?
Yes.
Mr. Servon?
Yes.
Mrs. Karcher?
Yes.
Mr. Mills?
Yes.
Mr. Spinarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
So you have 7 yeas in favor of approving the minutes of January 14th.
Also in front of you, you have the actions from the levy court on our commissioner recommendations. If you have any questions, please see staff after the meeting. We're now moving into new business. And as I said, the first 2 are the kind of ones I really enjoy, and I wish and pray that more people would get into it. The first one on the new business is AP-21-01, Cartanza District. It's a request for approval of a creation of an agriculture preservation district located outside the growth zone overlay district. They weren't here, but as you know, this is the customary. We like to approve them. So what would the commission like to do?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Mills?
I'll make a motion AP-21-01 Cartanza District. Motion, I move that the Regional Planning Commission grant approval of the application AP-21-01 to create an agriculture preservation district located outside the growth zone overlay district. This is based on the recommendations of the Agricultural Preservation Board and the staff recommendation report dated March 4th, 2021.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Please call the commission.
Mr. Peterman?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Servon?
Yes to approve.
Mrs. Karcher?
Yes.
Mr. Mills?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Spinarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Jester?
Yes to approve.
So you have 7 yeas in favor of granting approval of application AP-2101.
Moving to our second part of new business tonight, we have application AP-21-02, the Melvin District. This is also a request for approval of the creation of an agricultural preservation district located outside the growth zone overlay district. Once again, there was nobody present, but customarily, we don't have a problem with these at all. I'd entertain a motion. Ms. Archer?
I move that the Regional Planning Commission grant approval of application AP-21-02 to create an agricultural preservation district located outside of the growth zone overlay district. This is based on the recommendation of the Agricultural Preservation Board and the staff recommendation report dated March 4, 2021.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Okay.
I now have a second. Sarah, call the commission.
Mr. Peterman?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Servon?
Yes to approve.
Mrs. Karcher?
Yes.
Mr. Mills?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Spinarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Jester?
Yes to approve. It's a great idea.
So you have 7 ayes in favor of granting approval of application AP 2102.
Thank you once again, sir. We now get into our third application for the evening. It was CZ-21-01, and it's also LC-21-03. Vincent Terenick. It's a request to amend the zoning map comprehensive plan from RS1, single-family residential, medium-density residential to OC, office/complex, neighborhood commercial located inside the growth zone overlay district. Young lady did a great presentation, and those speaking for it also did. There was some opposition, and they made their point well known also. I will now turn it over to the commissioners. Who would like to make a motion? Mrs. Karcher, please.
I move that the Regional Planning Commission recommend approval of ordinance LC 21-03 to amend the zoning comprehensive plan from RS1 single-family residential, medium-density residential to OC, office or office complex, neighborhood commercial, located inside the growth zone overlay district. And this is based on the staff recommendation report dated March 4, 2021, the public testimony dated March 4, 2021, and the findings of fact that A, over time, the area has been transitioning to a mix of residential and non-residential uses, thereby demonstrating a change in the character of the surrounding area. B, the office or office complex zoning district is the least intensive non-residential zoning district that is available. And C, the subject parcel is only 0.54 plus or minus acres, thereby limiting the scope of future development of the site.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
We have a discussion.
I have a question about discussion. Mr. Mills?
Yeah, I'd like to bring up a question on this. If
Is this for Sarah?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would wait for a second first.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
I have a motion and a second. Now I have a question. Go ahead, Mr. Mills, with your question.
The question I have is last week's testimony was the fact that they interested in putting a remodel in this house or some fashion to make a medical professional building. If this is approved tonight and then something goes wrong and they don't do that, does this continue to be a commercial property? Also, I'd like to bring up the fact that there was no plans presented of what they want to do to this building. And my next question is, it says in the MLS, and the MLS is what the realtors use to get their information, and according down at the bottom of the MLS, it always states the disclosure that it could not be factual and that they need to seek professional guidance, and they did that. But what MLS is the fact that this property could revert back to 2 parcels. Also, it says in the MLS that this property could revert back to business residential. Was it ever, this property, ever any other zoning other than what it is right now prior years back?
Sir, I think you have a number of questions there. If you'd like to walk through them, I'd appreciate it.
The first question was, if it's rezoned but the plan doesn't go forward, what happens to the property? It stays the zoning district it's been assigned. So if it's rezoned to OC, it stays OC, and any use that's permitted in that district could go there. The second question about whether it can revert to 2 parcels, I don't know the history of it. Given the zoning, it's possible it could be subdivided. That's never been a question before us. As to what it was in the past, I don't know that it's been rezoned in the past. I believe it's original zoning, so I don't know where the Realtor was pulling information from.
Mr. Chair.
Is that good enough, Mr. Mills? Are you clear on that?
Partial, yes. Now, what about if it's approved tonight and they got a contingency on this piece of property, and something falls through, it will stay whatever we approve it at tonight. Is that correct?
Whatever levy court assigns the zoning as is what it will remain.
Whatever levy court decides is what it will remain.
Levy court from here.
I'd also like to mention that last week, we were told that they're not changing the footprint. So we have a diagram that was given to us as to the interior changes. But I believe we were told that the only thing that would happen exteriorly would be what, maybe one or two more parking places or something like that? That was it? It's not going to change the, probably the impervious surface wouldn't change.
I believe a small addition is contemplated, but it wouldn't, I think the testimony was it wouldn't go beyond where the outbuilding is right now.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes, that's correct.
But they would still be coming to us with a plan that would have to be approved later on, correct?
The plan would have to do with square footage. If it's large enough, it would come back. If it's minor, it would not. It would be administrative.
Administrative, very good. Does that answer? Yep. Yes, you have to push on your mic.
Okay, I see, I'm looking at a plan here now that, according to this plan, is within the footprint of the house that's already there now. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would just caution commissioners that what's before us now is not a planning issue, but a request for a zoning change specifically from RS1 to OC office complex. So that's what's before us right now.
Yeah, all those other questions are really in the future. What we're just doing tonight is deciding zoning. Does that answer your questions, Mr. Mills?
Yes.
Okay, I have, any other commissioners have any other questions? If not, I have a motion and I have a second. Please call the commission.
Mr. Peterman,
Yes, to approve.
Mr. Servon,
I vote no.
Mrs. Karcher.
Yes, to approve, and I'd just like to mention several of my reasons for approving. Number one, I've worked in the healthcare field, and if I can tell you that if anything is lacking in the United States, it is mental health availability. And Delaware is absolutely no different than anyone else, any other state. And it's a half-acre lot. So I'm not terribly concerned that they can do too much more than what this plan is. And from my experience just in the healthcare field, those people are not coming at the rush hours. They're coming throughout the day, and it's only going to be, 4 or 5 people, but at a time, at the most. And I believe, knowing enough mental health providers, a lot of them work in the evening. The rush hour's over. So, it's not a... It's the piece of land size is probably my desire to see more mental health facilities.
And as always, we appreciate your expertise from that particular field. Continue with the vote.
Mr. Mills,
Oh, yes, to approve.
Mr. Spanarelli,
No.
Mr. Davis,
I'm going to have to vote no. I understand what the commissioner's comments were about the mental health field. I get that. But I also have to understand that people that live there are definitely opposed to it. We had numerous people give testimony as to the reason. One of them was traffic. And at what point do we stop? That area is primarily a residential neighborhood. Many of those people moved there for that purpose, and that was testified to last week. It seems to me that at some point in time that we have to really take a hard look at this and say, that area is really not designed for excessive amount of commercial use. So we keep approving them. They made reference to one in 2019, and now we have another one, and we may have another one a couple months from now. I just think I agree with staff's original recommendation to deny it, and I support that, so I vote no.
Mr. Jester.
I vote yes.
So you have 4 yeas, 3 nays in favor of recommending approval of ordinance LC 2103.
Thank you, sir, and good luck with your project. Now we're going into LC 21-01, Landscaping and Horticultural Services, an ordinance to amend the Kent County 205 zoning as amended by revising Article 2, definitions subsection 205-6, definitions Article 5, Agriculture Conservation District, subsection 205-48, conditional uses, Article 6, Agriculture Residential District, subsection 205-64, conditional uses, Article 21, conditional uses, adding subsection 205-309.1, landscaping and horticultural services, and amending subsection 205-365, table of conditional uses to add landscaping and horticultural services as a conditional use in the AC and AR zoning districts. Sarah explained it very well last week. Does any of the commissioners have any questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion. Anybody would like to give a motion, you can speak up, even on the phone.
Yeah, sure.
Denise, go ahead.
I move that the Regional Planning Commission recommend approval of ordinance LC 21-01, adding landscaping and horticultural services as a conditional use in the AC and AR zoning districts. This is based on the memorandum from staff dated February 17, 2021, the public hearing testimony dated March 4, 2021, and the findings of fact that the expansion of allowable uses within the zoning ordinance is a benefit to businesses in Kent County, while the conditional use requirement and conditions of approval protect adjacent properties from potential negative impacts of the non-residential uses.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Sarah, please call the commission.
Mr. Peterman?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Servon?
Yes to approve.
Mrs. Karcher?
Yes.
Mr. Mills?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Spanarelli?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Davis?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Jester?
Yes, for all reasons given.
Sir, you have 7 yeas in favor of recommending approval of ordinance LC 2101.
There you go, Steph. You have new terminologies to work with. We're now down to public comment. If there's anybody on the phone, hit star 1. Anybody on the phone, star 1. Hearing nobody on the phone, I'm down to commissioner comments. Any commissioners on the phone or here in person have any comments? Any other business to bring before the commission? We then will entertain a motion to adjourn.
To adjourn?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Sarah, call the commission.
Mr. Peterman?
Yes.
Mr. Servon?
Yes.
Mrs. Karcher?
Yes.
Mr. Mills?
Yes.
Mr. Spanarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. I thank you all, and the ones on the phone, be safe, and we'll see you next month.
Bill?
Conference recording has stopped.